So what's up, guys? If you're just tuning in, I was going to go over something here. This is my 1983 K5 Blazer, and if you guys just joined the channel or you've already been here, you probably know that I kind of like these a little bit. It's kind of my thing. Well, if you haven't followed the story on this one, I got it almost a year ago from a guy down in it was outside of like Austin-ish area in the hill country of Texas, and he had just moved from California. So this is an original California from Stockton K5 Blazer, so it's virtually almost rust-free. I bought it with the idea of he wants the engine back, and we're getting ready to take this thing apart and take the engine back down there. But one thing I've noticed since I've been driving, I've put about 200 miles on it and fixed some things and all that kind of stuff, kind of shaking it down, getting ready. But there has been this chattering noise with this thing that sounds like a cracked flywheel or something like that, and it's gradually gotten worse. I've disconnected the torque converter and it goes away. But I tighten it back up, it comes back. I've loosened this converter up about 3 different times. Well, I drove it and I was like, man, it just sounds like something's hitting metal somewhere on it. So I want to take it for a little spin here, and I want you guys to hear it, and you'll hear it just right off. And then we're going to come back and I'm going to show you what I've actually found with this thing and let you know what I think it is. So let's go for a ride. All right, so we got it running here, and you can probably already hear it. It's making that noise. We're going to head on down the road here. And mind you, this motor runs absolutely fantastic. Really, really good engine. So just listen. We probably don't even have to leave the property for you guys to know what this noise is, or so you can hear it. But hear that? Okay. We're gonna roll down the road. Yeah, aside from that little noise, this thing runs and drives as good as you could hope for. But yeah, you can hear that. And it can drive you absolutely nuts. So let's get down here. We're going to turn around and we'll go back to the garage, and I'll show you what I think the issue with this truck is. All right, we're going to accelerate here. You can hear it. Ah, that's 700 R4, man. They shift terribly. But anyways, yeah, you can hear it. It doesn't sound great, but it's not hurting anything. So, all right, so we're underneath the K5 Blazer, and we have a 700 R4 350 earlier style engine. And my first assumption, what I did was I removed and disconnected the torque converter, and I want you to look at something right there. And I disconnected the converter, rolled it and pushed it back, fired the motor up. It was fine. I let that thing run. I hooked the converter back up, started making noise again. I then disconnected it again, and the noise went away. I could not get it to recreate that noise. Well, hooked it back up, drove it around making the noise, and then I came back, did it again. Same thing. Every time I disconnected the transmission and the converter, it stopped. Well, all of these 700 R4s that I've worked with have a 6-bolt torque converter, where a Turbo 350-400 has a 3-bolt converter in it. And so this flywheel that's on here has 3 bolts hooked up to it, and they're kind of wallered out a little bit. So my first assumption on this was when the converter's tightened up, it gets where the flywheel's supposed to go in a circle and be true. It's got a little wobble to it because it's kind of in a bind pulled against the converter. So, and that's why I just showed you that hole doesn't line up with the converter right there. And I've tried to line it up in other holes, and I think it has, even though it's an SFI, nice flywheel, it's not right for this application. But I drove it the other day and I was like, man, it just sounds like a piece of metal in the bell. So I checked all the bell housing. I even went on top and loosened it up to make sure like none of those brackets and stuff like that holds the wiring looms is down there and it's just barely hitting the flywheel. I've confirmed there's nothing wrong with any of that. So let me show you when I had it running what's actually happening here. So if you look up inside there, you see that starter gear right up in here. When that starter kicks out, it also, the Bendix pulls it all the way back. Well, while this engine is running, that starter gear is bouncing against the flywheel. It's just chattering against it. And you can see, one, we don't have that good a thread engagement on the flywheel, but another is you can see where that thing's been hitting the inside of this all the way around. And I've started it up, and you could hear it tick, 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 you know, banging against that flywheel. And you can also see that this ring is wobbling. Well, I think that's because it's tightened up. It's wrong for the converter, but what bolts that are tightened up with the converter are pushing on the flex plate and getting it cattywampus, because it's also, there's a bushing on the end of that rod on a starter, and it actually, I was watching it, the flywheel's touching that bushing, trying to see about right here, there's a bushing on the end. So that flywheel is walking enough where it's touching both of those surfaces and making that noise. But if I undo the converter, it runs straight and true and is just fine. So we're gonna have to pull the motor anyways, because like I said, I want to give it back to the previous owner, but we got to pull it anyways to do the flywheel. And you would say, well, I would just do the transmission and stuff. Well, actually on these, it's easier to remove the engine than it is the transmission case, drive shafts, everything else. So that's what's next up to do with it. And we're getting really, really close, because it's almost time to crack into this K5 and get it set up. And so, yeah. And I'll try to start it. Let's fire it up and maybe so you guys can see what it's doing. So just a second. All right, we're in business now, guys. All right, I revved it up. Let's see if we can shine a light up here. Shine a light on me. So you can see where it's dug in. Look at that thing hitting that flywheel. And it's got the wobbles too. Yeah, it's tapping that starter gear and making noise. You can see where it's kind of grooved that. Right there. Yeah. So yeah, that is what I found out on the Blazer. So far, I've got a list of things I need to do to it. We got to pull this motor out and get it back to where it needs to go. We need to get started on the other, but I also need to put carpet in it. I need to fix the window motors. I need a back window. So if anybody knows where I can get a back glass, because this one, somebody just pried on it, and it is, it's broken. That's all cracks. That's not like a storm or nothing. Yeah, so I need a new back window, but I also need the window motor for that. I need the window motors for the front. I'm trying to think of what else this thing needs. I need to get the back brakes working, because they're not working at all. So I need to rebuild that stuff. So I've got a little list of stuff I need to do. So it's getting there, but man, does this truck drive good. I'm so, so happy to have this thing. So yeah, I mean, just wait until I get this other little project done, and then I'm going to get started and rip this thing apart. I need to run that motor back down to Dallas and give it back to the guy I got it from, and then just start getting this thing going, man. But this is I love driving this thing. It's a good truck. So if you guys hit the like button, subscribe, and see you on the next one.